Sawubona. I would like to introduce to you the work that we've been doing for the last 15 years in developing a community to hold a responsibility for certain vital agreements that will allow people to reach their inner potential and dedicate that to the larger societal goal of building a community where people can share what they find in themselves to be true and meaningful. ShadeTree Multicultural Foundation was founded to support young people finding their social impulse, to bring them from the edge of life where they struggle to envision a meaningful and just place, and to bring them into relationship with others who can help them renegotiate the primary agreement of their own destiny and the future in which they must serve and live. We are at a point where the last 15 years have brought us to being prepared to create a platform for an economic agreement that will allow these young people, now in their numbering in the hundreds, to step into a collective ownership of work, to engage each other in the creating of a civil society form that will allow reciprocity to flow from the other sectors of society to them and from them into these other social forms. We want to be able to provide a platform that could allow these young people whom we have mentored to enter into societal agreements for work, for study, and for practice in the development of a sustainable community life. We're making an invitation for those with the resources and the means to contribute to this, to give in forms of monies, in forms of experience, in forms of knowledge, to help guide this work into its rightful next step. Most of us have worked with it out of our own voluntary intention and have served it to be able to allow it to be free enough that people could love it for what it could actually do. And we feel that we have built a community that understands what it means to serve, what it means to share, and what it means to aspire for something that could be sustainable in a local space. Los Angeles has been a turbulent environment for many people. Many people live without the means to meet their daily needs. But what we have aspired to do is to help examine the fundamental source of economy, which is this capacity and the predisposition in the human being to give. When we are able to give meaning, a person recovers and then stands within that recovery of the self, this potential to work out and renegotiate all the necessary social boundaries that they must now engage in order to be and live in a healthy society. So ShadeTree is requesting financial support to build the infrastructure of an office, to build the means to bring a staff into service of building a network of opportunities in the business sector for people to actually now make investments into the work that we have created and have gotten started. We have several more steps to go, but we hope that you will be interested in stepping into this next one and walk with us into a more sustainable future. Invite you to contact us and participate with us in this human endeavor. Appreciate all support that comes from this conversation. Thank you. ShadeTree's offer to the world is sanctuary. It's sanctuary for a young person who find themselves without any means of recognition for what they can actually do. It is an invitation for people to find a moment of contemplation, to re-examine their life, to remember their story, and to be able to narrate their own story into the world. We call it mentorship. And the form of mentorship is to enhance the person's willpower to live into their potential life, to not give up, to not feel exiled and misunderstood to the degree that they feel that their life is meaningless and that they must detach so far that they die in that detachment. We want to inspire these young men and women to be able to dream into their psyche, their soul, to wake into this potential of what if? What if you're given the help? What would you decide for? And so our task is to find out what it is that we can do to help liberate this willpower that a person holds within themselves for certain types of inner attainments of capacities, but the outer achievements of societal goals. We want people to achieve. And so ShadeTree has been a pathway of moving people from exile and aloneness to involvement and community, where they can then express their true will. We use the methodologies, or one particularly from the South African tradition we call Indaba. Indaba is a Zulu word that translates as, I have something important to tell you. Well, that's every human being. Every human being have inside themselves this capacity to bring social significance to what they say, meaning that what I know I can transform into a shared understanding. When I transform that into a shared understanding between you and me, we then can make agreements of what we actually can do together. So the pathway is, and the practice is, how can get a person from doing something by themselves to doing something with someone else that brings social significance into the world, that it not diminishes or say through conspiracy they engage violence, but to actually bring something creative into the world. And Indaba is an exploration of the deep story in a person's life. From what is the source of your emergence? Where did you come from? Why are you here? What are you here to do? What would you like to be doing with your time and energies? And then to explore what it is that we say ancestors, what are the deeper memory that is trying to just move through the individual, but also move through the group together. The practice is also engaging ritual, to work with the power of intention, to set intentions for future, for set intentions for relationships, to set intentions for some immediate needs and change that can happen. And then choreographing the symbolic gestures necessary to give meaning to things, so that the basic elements, what we call earth, fire, water, mineral, nature, becomes again part of the psyche, and a person begins to live deeper into the environment of life, and then move into this symbolic social processes where the day is not just the sun moving across the sky, but the day is what comes out of me, what I do, and to get into the time as a rhythm of change. What do you do daily? What do you do weekly? What do you do monthly? What do you do yearly? to measure the transformation of your life. So we begin to bring these symbolic stations of development into human awareness, and then support a person preparing for future, deciding for it, and navigating their own life by reflecting on what happens daily in their human experience. ShadeTree's journey a long way. We started really as a very informal gathering of men, and actually started with men who had encountered at a retreat we did for young men whom we had invited from different cities, who, after telling their stories, we realized that they just can't go back and be by themselves, or the scenario of the violence, the gang life, would not end. We had to create a space for them. So in 1995, we created this conversation and decided to visit and support them in their daily life and help them navigate the streets, help them navigate the violence that they live with, the wounds that they had accumulated in their own life, and the betrayals that constantly reinforce a pattern of, I don't want to be part of this society. So from that point, we develop more formal mentorship guidelines, because we ourselves were learning what to do when a person's in such difficulty. And we were meeting weekly. We did a lot of ritual. We did traditional Lakota sweat lodges, and people opened up more and more opportunities for these young people to engage their development. And we then formalized ShadeTree as a not-for-profit, a 501c3 in 2001. And from that point, we carried it as a social support process for other agencies that were doing work with youth and children. So we train mentors in other agencies around the city of Los Angeles and other states as well, and build a large community of practice around mentorship, and had advocated with policy makers to consider this human development element in the institutions that had to govern youth life, particularly this youth social justice, criminal justice system. We were part of conversations with people who were looking at what to do with youth who were in juvenile detention facilities around the country, and helped to formulate transition points from adolescent to young adult, from young adult to full adult life, what happens at these various stages, and what form of mentorship are best helpful for those stages of development. There were also institutional mentorship, where we would take an organization and help them develop strategies to be able to work more effectively with young people, whether they're in schools, universities, prisons, juvenile detention facilities and such, but community organizations that are really interested in the social welfare of young people. Where we are now in the journey is that 3 years ago we decided that we really wanted as well to develop an economic platform, because part of the work was how were they going to meet their daily life needs. Many of them have criminal backgrounds. They could not easily get into employment, or if they got into employment, it was not adequate for what they really need to be able. And to really support them, we really had to be honest with what they really need to live. And in assessing any person's, life needs now, we find that they would need to have, a college degree or better to be able to get into a job that actually could meet their real needs. And many of them don't have that. They don't have the experience to actually go into the marketplace and negotiate a good job, and they don't, because of the criminal record, they will never be able to get out of that cycle. So we thought we would take it upon ourselves to design a way for them to engage ownership of the work that they would do through a collective effort and through some partnerships that we've made within the business sector. People are willing to make an investment in this process. But we need to begin to build an infrastructure of staffing the organization to be able to hold those planning processes more directly and develop them so that we can bring about a more sustainable economic opportunity for these young people. So we're in that transition phase to this new economic vision. And we started this year, April, an institute called the World Community Prophecy and Planning Institute. And the intention to say, what is prophecy? Is the telling of our story and the putting in a what if. What if this story is to be lived out fully? What's at the end of it? And the human beings aspire. But what makes aspiration more true for us is that when we actually have others investing in the potential of that. So we understand prophecy to be an investment in the potential of human beings to do certain things and to make sure that the development and evolution of consciousness is fully supported by the resources that we currently have in our society. And so what we're trying to do with ShadeTree and this institute is to bring resources more directly into examining the potential of what could happen if these resources are actually made available. ShadeTree is a growing community of people who we don't define it because there's not a program where we say you start here and you end here. A person's mentorship ends when they find their own will, but more so when they begin to serve others. So a mentor moves from being mentored to mentoring. So this is the only way that you can find that our work, where we started, those whom we were mentoring 10, 15 years ago are now mentors and have gone even beyond that to be, advocates and allies in setting up structures that others can come through. So people have started their own work, not necessarily working for ShadeTree, working for other groups, their own enterprises. So we say our mentorship moves from just being with us to being in the world. And if that's the pathway that people chooses, then we support them going as far as they need to go. There are hundreds of people who are part of the community of ShadeTree. And if I can think of all the places that I myself personally have gone and worked, and they're in the thousands of people whom we have made contact with, whom we have shared this vision with, and says, in a process of mentorship, it does not necessarily matter how long it happens, is how deeply it happens when we're engaged. And for some people, we only meet one time, but it's deep enough for them to have an experience of the spirit of what we call ShadeTree. And then it's up to them to do what they do with that. What is important to us at this phase as well is to serve the place. We choose Los Angeles as the beginning point, since most of our history is here. But the intention of working with a place is to allow us to host others who come to the place to visit. So part of our model of ShadeTree's work here is to be able to host people, have them experience something, and then take it back to where they go and help to nourish those other relationships of places that we know that can be strengthened by what we do. We've had delegations come from all over the world wanting to know what we do in our mentorship because they've seen the examples of the people who come out of the work that we have done. But so we say it's not just the person, it's also the place. We take seriously what a person must be able to do. So when we're working with people from other places, other cities, other countries, we have to get an understanding of the environment in which they live so that we create something for help them support creating something for them that actually meets their needs as to what they must live through in their total environment. So our work in Los Angeles is unique to Los Angeles, but we also have models of communities elsewhere that we continue to work with. Some of our mentors go to El Salvador and Guatemala, Honduras, other parts of Europe and Africa, where they are engaging work with young people. Several other parts of the United States, where this mentorship work has inspired other activities. And so we want to continue to stay in alignment with those other communities and help them further develop. But we hope to have a place here to host our work in a much more substantial way in the next year.